So I got this jump starter a few months ago. I've had plenty of opportunities to test it, make sure everything's going to work out before I recommend it, and I do recommend it. This thing's awesome. I can do a review on this if you guys want to see that, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about extending these leads. This thing works great. It's got an air compressor in it. It's jump started my truck, and it's got a 6.2 liter V8. I've used it for my tractor, mower, things like that, and never had a hiccup. Works awesome. The charge levels not even went down, and I've used it quite a bit, but these leads are too short. They work okay in a vehicle because you've got an engine bay to kind of set this on whatever you need to set it on without stressing this out too much. The problem is once you separate this out on the positive and negative leads, you don't have much room. And when I try to use my jump start my tractor or my lawnmower, the issue is the battery's setting up higher. There's nothing to set it on, so I either have to get somebody to hold it, which is kind of a pain because this is a one-person thing, or I had to get a bucket or something like that just to prop this on so there's no stress. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to extend these and what you need to do it. Just off the top of my head, I threw everything on my workbench to give you an idea of what you might need. These are battery clamps. These are off of a set of jumper cables that I got a long time ago. You notice there's a bolt going through it or there's a rivet. I've used these in the past for things like this. I actually had these mounted to a small winch, but what I did was drill the rivet out and then I just put a bolt through it, and I got some new bolts because these are a little bit bigger and stronger for what I'm going to do. Anyways, you're going to need a set of these. You're going to need some battery disconnects. These are 50 amp plugs. I just got these because they're smaller. Obviously the jump starter says it does way more than that, but this 50 amp rating is 50 amp continuous, and you can pulse a lot more than that through it, so these should be fine. You're going to need some wire. This the jump starter I have is 8 gauge wire, and this is 8 gauge wire. These two bundles of wire was for a winch that I put on my UTV a long time ago, and I just saved them because I made my own connections and all. So if you have wire and you don't have the terminals already installed, you're going to need some terminals and some heat shrink, wire strippers to cut the wire. This is a pretty affordable crimper that you can use to crimp those lugs. You're going to need a hammer for that. You just put the wire, put the crimp in here, it's spring loaded, set it in place, then you hit it with a hammer, it crimps. You're going to need some heat shrink. This is 1/2 inch heat shrink. You can get whatever size you need. And you'll kind of have to figure everything out based on whatever size your wire is and what you're trying to do. I always like to get marine grade because it doesn't cost much more and it has a glue that melts to create like a waterproof connection. Scissors or a knife, and I think I mentioned the hammer already. You're going to need the hammer for the crimper and a heat gun. So let's get these things cut and crimped and installed. I'll show you what everything's going to look like. Here's an idea of how I held the clamp so that I could run the wire up through the guide and get the bolt through the terminal. I got everything tightened down now. You don't necessarily need a vise. You can do this by hand, but a vise makes it a lot easier. Notice I used a shirt on the vise to keep from scratching the clamps up too much. Here's an idea of the crimp that you'll get. You literally just strip the wire about the same length, a little bit longer so that it sticks off a bit, and then you put it in. Give you like a demonstration here. Well, I'm not actually demonstrating because it's loud. Put it in here, spring loaded, kind of holds it in place, get it toward the center, and get your wire, push it in there without bunching it up, and you literally just hit it, and it turns it into this. So we've got one end crimped, heat shrink, and ready to be installed into the connector. One thing you want to notice is positive and negative. Obviously red positive, black negative. If you don't connect these right, the jump starter is not going to work correctly and you might have a big problem. So it's got the little lip, got the little clip. You just push it up in there. Want to make sure it's lined up, or it's kind of difficult. And you just push it until you hear it click like that, and you give it a good tug, make sure it's not going to come back out. Same thing here, negative. Put it in that orientation so that it grabs that clip. Make sure it's lined up while you're pushing it. And sometimes these things can be difficult to insert, but they always go. So push it until it clicks, hear it engage, give it a good tug, make sure it's connected right, and we're ready to cut these off and install a connector somewhere in here so that we can have our extension. So I've got everything finished up, case you're wondering, I made these leads 3 feet. 3 foot works best for me. It's not too long that it's going to be cumbersome to carry around, and it's not too short like the originals. Got this finished up. Red positive, black negative, red positive, black negative. This will be plugged into the jump starter. Then you line these up, plug them together, and we're ready to use. It's about 3.5 feet. It's going to be a lot better than what I had before. I can actually set the jump starter on the ground and use it now instead of having to hold it or prop it on something. And one thing I always worried about propping it on something is it falling in the ground and busting, and that'd be bad because, you know, $100 kind of wasted if it's busted into all the pieces and the battery would be exposed and it'd just be a disaster. Anyways, I like this a lot better. I might make another video, since that thing has an inflator in it. I might make another one of me actually extending the hose, because the hose that came with it was 10-12 inches. Also too short. You have to hold the inflator in your hand as you're pumping a tire, and that's kind of annoying, especially if you have to stand there for 5 minutes. So if you guys are interested, I might make that in the future. I'm going to link everything in the description below in case you guys are interested. If you guys come up with something different or better, let me know. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.